Okay, this week we're doing probability. Okay, first lesson we're starting off with is outcomes and events. Okay, here's some definitions for you to copy down. Okay, 5 important definitions. Okay, first definition is experiment. Okay, a lot of times with probability there's an experiment. Okay, an experiment is an investigation or procedure with, different results. So for example here, one experiment could simply be rolling a die or rolling dice. Okay, an outcome is a possible result from the experiment. So if I roll a die, a possible number I could get is a 4. Okay, that's an outcome. I roll the dice, I get a 4, and that's one of my outcomes. Sample space is the set of all possible outcomes, so everything that could happen. Okay, if you roll a die, okay, you need parentheses here. Okay, or brackets. I usually use brackets for a set, so I'll put my bracket, and all the possible outcomes for rolling a die is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on a standard die. Okay, so sample space is just everything that could happen. Okay, an event. An event is when you want something specific to happen. Okay, a certain desired outcome. So for example, one event could be rolling an odd number. Okay, so an event for rolling a die could just be rolling an odd number. And then lastly is favorable outcomes. Okay, those are the possible outcomes of your event. Okay, so the event I said before was rolling an odd number. Okay, so the set of numbers that are odd on a standard die are 1, 3, and 5. Okay, just to recap these definitions. Okay, I had an experiment rolling a die. Okay, one possible outcome for rolling a die is the number 4. Okay, the sample space of rolling a die is all the numbers on the die. So 1 through 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, one possible event that can happen from rolling a die is rolling an odd number. Okay, and then our favorable outcomes from that event are all the odd numbers, which are 1, 3, and 5. Okay, these are pretty important definitions for probability, so make sure you copy them down. Okay, moving on to our first example. Okay, our first example is going to have to do with identifying outcomes. Okay, we're going to identify outcomes. Okay, so that means we're going to list the favorable outcomes. Okay, whenever you see the word list, it's very important because that means it's asking you to list all the possible things you can get. Okay, it's not asking you for a number. Well, maybe sometimes it will, but it's not asking you for, one number. It's asking you for all the possible outcomes that could happen. Okay, so our problem here is a letter from the word basketball is chosen at random. List the possible outcomes. List the possible outcomes. Once again, they want to list the letters. Okay, so for part A here, okay, what are my favorable outcomes for choosing K? Right, so I look at my word basketball, okay, and I write down every K I see. There's only one K, so my favorable outcome is K. Very simple. Don't overthink these, okay? Do not overthink them. They're very easy. Okay, part B is what are my favorable outcomes for not choosing B? Okay, not choosing B. Okay, so I don't want the letter B. So that means I want every other letter. So every other letter except for B is A, S, K, E, T, A, L, and L. Okay? Once again, very simple. Don't overthink it. Okay? Our event there was not choosing B. So then we had to choose everything else. Okay, part C. Choosing T or an L. Okay, whenever you see the word or, that means you can have more than, one possible scenario. So I could get a T or I could get an L. So I look at my word basketball. I have only one T. And then I have two L's. Okay. And then lastly, for part D is what is the outcomes for choosing a vowel. Hopefully everybody knows what a vowel is. Okay. But for basketball, our vowels are A, E, and A. Okay. Like I said, it's really not that difficult. All you're doing is listing all the possible things it could be. So if I looked at A, I want to choose a K. What are my possibilities for choosing a K? It's just the letter K. For part B, it's not choosing B. So what are my possibilities of not choosing B? So it's all the letters that aren't B. C is what are my possibilities for getting a T or an L. So that means I want to pick a T or an L. So that's TLL. And then lastly is what's my possible outcomes for choosing a vowel. So I want to pick the vowels out. Okay, do not overthink them. Like I said, they're pretty easy. Do not overthink them. Okay, try the U tries. Okay, the two U tries. The first one has to do with all the numbers there on the dial or the spinner. Okay. For part D, for that you try, it says a prime number. If you don't remember what a prime number is, just ask me. I'll let you know through Google Classroom if you don't remember. And then your next you try is the months of the year. Okay, try to be careful with the months of the year. There's some in there that might try to trick you. Okay, so pause the video and do those you tries. Okay, moving on to the next example. Okay, now this example is just counting the outcomes. Okay, counting the outcomes. Okay, so the first part there is in the actual question itself. So it says the spinner below is spun once. Okay, how many outcomes are there? How many possible outcomes? So you just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8 total. Okay, there's 8 total outcomes, and that's easy. Okay, counting outcomes is asking you to actually give the number of possible things. It's not asking you to list them anymore. Now it's saying give the number of the favorable outcomes. So how many of them can you choose? Okay, it's not asking you to list them anymore. It's asking you how many are there. Okay, so if I look at my first problem here, I have for part A is give the number of favorable outcomes for spinning green. So I just got to count how many green there are. So I have one green here. I go blue, yellow, blue. I have another green here. Blue, red, yellow. So that means I have 2 greens. That's it. You just have to count that. Okay? Part B. It's asking give the number of favorable outcomes for not spinning red. Not spinning red. So that means I want everything else. I want all the other colors except for red. Okay, so I have a green, I have a blue, yellow, blue, green, blue. I don't count the red because I don't want to spin red. And then a yellow. So that means I have 7 possible outcomes for not spinning red. Okay, part C, it's asking you to spin yellow or red. So that means I want to count both of those. So I go through my list, green, blue, there's 1 yellow there, blue, green, blue, red, and then yellow. So that gives me 3 possible outcomes for that scenario. And then lastly, it wants you to spin green and red. Okay? Spinning green and red. Okay? So I go back and I count. I have 1 green here, 2 greens here, and then a red. So that is 3 possible outcomes for that as well. And that's it. Okay, it's very simply just counting the possible outcomes you could get. Okay, if you have any questions, ask in Google Classroom. And that is